when does school start? When does that soccer tournament end? Does she really have to go to that ballet recital? Do we have to go to that family reunion? You can totally ask for extra time off work, right? You know, so we can dine with an Imagineer. There are so many things in our lives that make planning any vacation difficult. And that's why it can be extra frustrating whenever you put a lot of time and money into a vacation only to realize that you didn't know everything there was going on at your destination. This can produce a very unsatisfying experience, especially when your expectations are Disney level. The good news is, you're watching this video! Today we're going to be going over pros and cons to visiting Walt Disney World during different seasons of the year. And we're actually going to be going over 6 different factors that you might think about when choosing your vacation dates. The first factor we're going to talk about is seasonal pricing. Disney has gone to a dynamic pricing system, which means that depending on the date you visit Walt Disney World, some things can be more expensive or less expensive depending on demand. That means that if Disney expects higher crowds for a certain day, it's going to be more expensive for hotels and restaurants. We can't dig down deep into specific dates, but we can generalize ranges of dates to hopefully help you guys get an idea of what times of the year are more expensive to visit Walt Disney World and what times of the year are less expensive. The second thing we're going to talk about are events happening at Walt Disney World. They do have some special limited time things that happen throughout the year with different festivals and activities. And sometimes these things can bring out crowds more than others. This is definitely going to be something you want to consider when visiting Walt Disney World. A third thing you need to think about is refurbishments happening. Believe it or not all the rides go on pixie dust. And sometimes the Imagineering team needs to go in and spruce up some rides and make sure that everything is safe for guests. Disney usually does these refurbishments on off seasons. So even though you may be going during a time that is cheaper, you may not get to experience all of the things that Disney has to offer if a ride has gone down for refurbishment. The fourth thing you need to think about is park hours. During really crowded times, Disney extends the park hours to almost 24 hours. It gets kind of crazy. And during the off-season times, the park hours are usually shorter. So if you're the type of person that wants to be in the parks from dawn to dusk to midnight to 1 o'clock, then you're probably going to be more happy if you go during a more crowded time. However, if park hours aren't necessarily the biggest thing to you and you're okay with visiting things like Disney Springs or hanging out at your resort, you'll probably be just fine visiting during some of the less crowded times of the year. The fifth thing that we need to think about is there are some historical data points out there that help us understand what times of the year are most popular and which times of the year are not. And so you can find those things online and kind of gauge how much crowd you are willing to deal with. And the sixth and last thing that you need to think about is the weather. Florida weather kind of has split personality sometimes, and it can be really hot or really cold or absolutely beautiful. And so you definitely need to consider the average temperatures and the typical rain patterns when it comes to visiting Florida. Hopefully with this video, we can help set expectations and help you guys come up with a game plan when it comes to picking dates for your Walt Disney World vacation and still make it a magical experience. Okay, time out for a second because we need to add a couple of disclaimers. First off, low and high crowds is all relative. Disney is a really popular place to visit right now, and there's never going to be a time when the park is dead. Second disclaimer. One of the best things about Disney is also one of the most frustrating things about Disney when it comes to planning, and that's the fact that Disney is always changing. So we may give you some information in this video and Disney might change it tomorrow. The way we structured this video is that we've actually put each topic in a playlist, and so if there are any updates to this particular topic, you will be able to get updates literally on autoplay. And that way you're going to be up to date on everything when it comes to Walt Disney World planning. Okay, that's the end of my disclaimer. Let's get back to the video. All right, so the first season that we're going to talk about at Walt Disney World happens from January 8th to about March 15th. And we're just going to call this winter. There are a lot of pros to this season, first of which is the fact that most of these dates fall within the value or the regular pricing, which saves you money. Now, there are only two major events that happen during this time that can affect crowds. One is Martin Luther King Day, and the other is the Princess Half Marathon. Now, sometimes Marathon Weekend falls within this season as well at the very beginning, and it is Run Disney's biggest event of the year, so it will affect crowds at some level. The other thing that you can experience during this season is the Epcot International Festival of the Arts. This is Epcot's newest festival, and it just adds a little something extra for you to experience while visiting the Epcot park. And it's definitely something that you can only experience at this time of the year. One thing that's great about low crowds is that you're also going to have relatively low wait times when experiencing attractions. And another perk about this time period is usually not too hot. Now, some of the cons of the season is this is considered Disney's off-season, so they typically have a lot of refurbishments happening, especially after the busy holiday season. You're also going to have shorter park hours, so you're not going to be able to spend as much time in the parks as you would, say, over the summer. Another con about this season is you don't really know what the weather is going to do. Sometimes you can hang out in your shorts and your tank top, and other times you're going to be packing your parka. I always recommend packing layers whenever you're going to travel at this time of the year. The next season we're going to be talking about is spring at Walt Disney World, and we're going to define these as dates from about March 16th to basically Memorial Day. Some of the pros, the month of May actually has a lot of dates in the value season. However, I think the majority of your dates you're going to find are in the regular season. Another pro is that the weather is usually gorgeous at this time of year. I've found that it's probably the least rainy that I've experienced. However, it's Florida, so definitely bring your poncho. Another amazing thing that happens at spring is the Flower and Garden Festival at Epcot. This is definitely one of my favorite things that happens at Epcot, and there's just something so beautiful about all the flowers everywhere at the park. Another pro is that they do have some extra fun things for you to experience during the Mardi Gras holiday and the Easter holiday. These things can add a little extra magic to your trip. Another pro is that there's usually not a ton of refurbishment happening. If a ride, say, had a longer refurbishment than normal and they were still carrying over from the winter season, then that would probably affect you. But other than that, everything should be back up and running. Park hours are usually longer than winter, which means you get to spend more time in the parks. And while it may be extra fun to participate in the Star Wars weekend race, definitely be looking out for the crowds that accompany it. Now, there are some cons that come with the spring season. March and April are going to be the weeks where you find everybody taking their spring break trips to Walt Disney World. This means that those times are going to be usually in peak pricing, and that means hotels and restaurants are going to be more expensive. That also means that spring break is going to bring all of the crowds, so wait times for attractions are going to be at their maximum. Add on to that, your Mardi Gras and your Easter holidays are going to bring out the crowds, especially when it comes to locals, so be aware of that. All right, let's talk this summer season at Walt Disney World. We're going to define this as Memorial Day to Labor Day. One thing that's really fun about summer at Walt Disney World is they usually are going to host some extra special experiences just for summer. For example, one year after Frozen had come out, they hosted Olaf's super cool summer at Hollywood Studios, and you could do some extra Frozen fun things while visiting that park. Another example, actually out in Disneyland, is they celebrated the new Pixar Pier by hosting Pixar Fest, which was a limited time experience just for the summer. These things are really fun and can add some extra magic to your vacation. They also bring just a really great energy throughout the parks. Now, 4th of July at the parks can bring out the crowds, but it's for a great reason. The fireworks are amazing. Another pro is that you usually have no refurbishments during this time. And park hours are definitely going to be longer during this season, so you're going to be able to have more time in the parks. Now, some cons, summer is usually in the regular pricing with sometimes in the peak pricing, so your vacation is going to be more expensive than other seasons. And because summer is a very popular time to visit Walt Disney World, you are going to experience longer than average waits when it comes to attractions. However, armed with a really good plan, hopefully from your Magic for Less travel agent, you can still experience everything that you want to while visiting Disney. Now, another con about summer is hot in Florida. And if you're not prepared with fans or cooling towels and making sure that you're hydrated, this can really have a major effect on your vacation. So make sure you bring a plan and make sure that you are prepared for the weather. All right, the next season that we're going to talk about at Disney is fall, and we're going to define this season from Labor Day to about November 16th, basically the middle of November. And if you're paying attention at home, you're like, Maddie, the 4 seasons don't make a full year. Trust me, I know. There's a reason. Now, a pro about the fall season is that a lot of the dates fall within the value season, which means that you can visit the world at a cheaper price. Another pro is that Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party happens during this time, and the Magic Kingdom is always decorated to match. It just adds another layer of experience to the Magic Kingdom, and it's something that I love so much. Another amazing thing happening during the fall is Epcot's Food and Wine Festival. This is probably Epcot's most popular festival, and there's a reason. You get to eat your way around the world and maybe try some things that you never got to try before. This festival definitely adds a lot of fun to this park. Another pro about this time, there are usually no rides down for refurbishment. Now, there are some cons. October is definitely going to be a popular time to visit because of Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, and that is going to affect pricing. Now, another con is because Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party is happening, there are going to be some dates where the Magic Kingdom closes to regular guests. So if you want to visit the Magic Kingdom the most, you need to make sure that you visit on non-party days or just buy a ticket to the party. Another con is that the Food and Wine Festival is so popular that it does bring locals out to visit. So you're going to see crowd surges over the weekends. Now, another con about traveling during the fall in Florida is the weather. It usually still is hot. If you go later in the season, it's not quite as hot as summer, but you do need to still be prepared. It also rains all the time during the season, so you need to make sure that you bring rain gear with you. Otherwise, it makes traveling throughout the parks very difficult. Another thing about the weather is this is hurricane season in Florida, so you need to make sure that you are prepared for that. I was actually in Walt Disney World when Hurricane Matthew was coming in, and we barely got out of Orlando before the hurricane hit. I highly suggest that you consider traveler's insurance if you're going to be traveling during this season. Thankfully, we did not have to worry about traveler's insurance during our trip, but it was definitely something that was in the back of my mind while we were trying to figure out what to do. Now we're finally at the last season at Walt Disney World, and it's the holiday season. And we're going to define this from the week of Thanksgiving to the week after New Year's. Now, some pros. It is Christmas at Walt Disney World, and there is just something so magical about having everything decorated at Walt Disney World. Also, Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party is happening, and it's something I highly suggest that you guys check out if you are visiting during this time. There are so many fun events that are going on during the Christmas season, including Epcot's Candlelight Processional. All these different things can just be an extra thing to add on to your vacation and make it that much more memorable. Also, each resort is uniquely decorated for Christmas. So this might be a good time if you're considering not going to the park one day to go resort hopping and see all the amazing things that the resorts have to offer. Another pro is there's usually 0 rides down for refurbishment, and the park hours are usually long. Now, some cons to the season. Most weeks are going to be during peak pricing, which means that you are going to be paying a premium for hotels and restaurants. Similar to Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party will close the Magic Kingdom early for regular park guests. So if you're planning on visiting the Magic Kingdom, make sure that you know when those party dates are happening and plan accordingly. Another con, crowds are definitely high during this season. Again, this doesn't necessarily have to be a con. If you have a great touring plan and you know what you want to see, you can definitely experience everything that you want to while visiting Walt Disney World. Another thing that goes on during the season is the weather. It's similar to winter, where it can be beautiful spring day one day and then it can be super freezing the next. So make sure that you pack layers and you check the weather forecast before you go out. We hope this video helps you decide when is best for you and your family to visit the world. There are pros and cons to each season, but with a great plan and some well-set expectations, you can definitely have a wonderful and magical experience. If you'd like more information on this topic, we have a page at the Mouse for Less that you can go to and the link in the description. We have tons and tons of information for you guys as you are deciding when will be best for you to visit Walt Disney World. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. This series is brought to you by the Magic for Less travel agency. Their Magic Plus concierge service is designed to make you feel like a VIP while visiting the Walt Disney World resorts. Their agents have first-hand experience that is going to help you plan a vacation that meets your needs, saving you time and money at no extra cost to you. And once you've booked things like tickets or hotels, you can use them as much or as little as you need to plan subsequent things, like fast passes or dining reservations or anything else for your vacation. You can request a no-obligation quote at themagicforless.com and an agent will get back to you immediately. This series is also brought to you by themouseforless.com, your #1 destination for Disney news and updates. There is so much information there to help you plan your Disney vacation, things such as resort guides and restaurant information, and you can find it all at themouseforless.com. Thank you guys so much, and we'll see y'all real soon.